Good morning, everyone. Welcome inside the Faith Loop. Glad you're with us. It is Tuesday, March 7th, and Dad came up with a fascinating look at something. It is 2023. We were talking about this yesterday.
Yep.
And what AD means. Mm-hmm. The Latin, what was the Latin words?
Anno something. I forget the last one.
Anno Domini, something. Yeah. But in Latin, it just means the year of our Lord.
Right.
It doesn't mean after death.
No.
That is a myth. Yeah. So we're here to debunk myth as well. Yeah. We're here to help. We're here to help. And this is what we do. We're here to talk about the things that are true. But it is March 7th, the year of our Lord, 2023, day 2,111,231. It just keeps going up.
Keeps going up.
Of the crisis of identity. We're in chapter 188, so that means we've been doing this a bit.
Yeah, a little while.
My goodness.
Gets on by, doesn't it?
You know, I was looking at that today, Dad, and I looked at the date when I was typing this in. I'm like, man, is it March 7th already?
Yeah, yeah.
We're in the third month of this year already.
Already. Yeah.
Man.
Getting toward the middle of it.
I'll tell you. But we're talking about the knowledge of good and evil. We're in part 7, and Dad wrote this piece today. The blog is up. The description for this is in the description, or the link for this is in the description here on YouTube. So go check that out. Go read that. But we're talking about absolutes. And I think it's interesting when Dad brought this subject up. We were talking after we were finished last Wednesday. And it's so apropos because today, what do you hear? You hear people say, what is your truth? Or this is my truth.
Mm-hmm. All the time.
Okay. So that's founded in what?
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. My wildest imagination.
Well, it's my truth. And
yes.
I was thinking the other day while I was in the tub that this is what's real.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's basically what the world is patterned after right now.
It is. It's exactly what they're doing. You know, it's no different, though, than in ancient times. There was a day in Israel when the book says that every man did what was right in his own eyes.
Because there was no standard in Israel.
Right, there was no standard there. So what's new?
Right.
You know.
And, okay, Dad, and these are things that we've discussed and we've talked about for some time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you bring up this. And what, you know, we say king. We say a ruler. We say somebody who's in charge. Well, why are they in charge? Why is Joe Biden in charge?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we voted him in charge. Why? Does anybody think about this? Well, we had an election. Well, that's still, so what? Why did we put this man in charge? See, because now you have to look at that foundational piece that says this is an absolute. This is what is absolute in a standard that says this is what is real, this is what's true, this is how we have to conduct our lives.
Exactly.
And where does that come from?
Exactly. If we have no absolutes in life, then we're just driven by the wind and blown every direction. If there's no truth, central standard truth, then what are we to believe? Mm-hmm. When we, as Brian said, you know, we elect these people, and they are supposed to be the standard.
That's right, Dad.
that the nation has at that time. But all of them are different. Everything's different. Now, we have a standard.
Yep.
It's called the Constitution.
Right.
And the Bill of Rights.
Right.
But now we can't even depend on that. I was on the way in this morning. I was listening to a broadcast on the radio, and Judge Napolitano was talking, and he was talking about New Jersey, how that they've passed a law that children at the age of 7 have to begin to be taught gender identity. And he said if you'd go to a school board and stand up and speak against this, you'd probably have the FBI knocking on your door the next morning.
Or could be subject to arrest just in just from the local police, I
right.
imagine.
Absolutely. So what standard, what foundation, what anything out there? My truth, as Brian said, my truth, your truth, whose truth? If we don't have anything to stand on, then, friend, look, do we treat the sciences that way?
You can't.
If I say in math 2 and 2 is 4 and you say 2 and 2 is 40, we're going to have a big problem. If I have a ruler that's a foot long and you say it's 2 feet, then when we go try to build something with it or do something with it, we're going to have a problem. We're not going to have the right kind of thing. So math is an absolute. It is. In science, we say that if you take an experiment and you do it over and over and over and you get the same result, then it must be true. So why can't we do that in our lives?
You know, it's interesting when you say math, Dad, because I think when mankind started looking into the stars, looking outside of the physical world that we live in, the natural world we live in, that Jehovah himself put in motion, outside of our atmosphere, there are things that work differently. Can you figure it out mathematically? Yes. But that's what they look and they say, well, if this is different here, maybe could be different here and this and this. And I think this is where it takes the mind away from the standard by which things operate within their structure. There's an ecosystem, that what we call economic system. That's why we get ecosystem, because it's managed. The earth is managed by this system. By this system of mathematics, by physics, by these standards, which if you start breaking them up, and this is where quantum goes. This is why they talk about quantum so much, is these random acts. This is what they try to produce, replicate, to say that man spontaneously came into being. And there's no factors for that.
No.
And when we talk about, you brought up the Constitution. Excuse me. My nose is wrecked. This is what we're doing in our cultural context. There's a side, and I think this is why they want to bring it to destruction. Because what people have said about this Constitution is that it was ordained by God. I don't believe that.
I don't either.
Never have. I don't believe that's the case. Men wrote this. They wrote it out of the Enlightenment period, which was Aristotelian, Platonistic, mostly Aristotelian, and based in this form of liberty where we're free to choose as we please, which I disagree with. I don't believe in free will as they say it. I do believe there is a will, and we have to understand what that will of the Father is and act accordingly to it. That doesn't mean that we aren't inherently have reason and the ability to make decisions. And it's evident that Adam was able to make a decision because he did. He just made the wrong one after hearing the fact that there's a consequence to making those decisions. And we still chose the consequence of death to make that decision. That is somewhat unreasonable, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
So here we have these things which have been a standard in this country. And if you look at it just from that purely, that standpoint, just from the mankind standpoint, what has it done for this nation? Why would you change it?
Exactly. Exactly. Think about it.
That doesn't make sense, does it?
No. No, it doesn't make sense. And the only reason, in my opinion, you can agree or disagree, in my opinion, the only reason they have is because they want to be in power and total control. From the foundation of the world, almost, we've seen this in manifested in mankind, where they have this unending lust for power, this unending need, I guess, within them to rule. And you're going to do what I tell you to do, or you're going to have some consequences. So, in order to do that, though, everything else that the country was founded on and everything that was done has to be destroyed. And now, I'm not saying, I agree with Brian. I don't think God ordained the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or any of it. I've said this before. This nation was not founded on Christianity. I read a deal yesterday. It was 45 myths. Look it up on YouTube or look it up on the internet. 25 myths debunked. One of those myths was, and it surprised me because I've believed this for a long time, and I came down to it and said that America was founded on Christian principles or by Christians. And then they talked about the people who were deists, this and that and the other, and said that's not true. And now this isn't coming from a preacher. It's not coming from a Christian. It's not coming from somebody with that kind of a background. It's coming just from a bunch of people that said these are myths.
We're just looking at this purely from the history.
Right, just from history. So, but having said that, men did get together and try to form a better way of governing that took away oppression. It took away the right of kings. It took away those things, and so forth. Judge Napolitano was talking this morning, too, about, the way they will question you. And if you don't answer them, then you got a problem. But he said, what about I have the right to be silent? I have the right to an attorney. I have the right to this. Well, not much anymore. Not much anymore. So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
If we have no absolute, if there are no absolutes, then the world just going every direction it can go, and it's going to blow up.
And here's the thing, Dad, as you're talking, you can take this. There's so many fingers to this. It's amazing. And this is at the crux of everything, though. See, this is the crux of it all. And when you talk about a constitution, or when you talk about why men set this in motion, well, when you have the Renaissance, the rebirth of humanism, where did it take you? It's taken us to this place. It took us to Marxism. It took us to Nietzsche. It took us to David Hume. It's taken and given more, what's the word I'm looking for? More room for these people to bring about this idea of personal freedom. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? We always talk about freedom in this country, but you're not free, and that's what Dad was talking about. What about your rights? Now, this country is based and founded on a constitution with a Bill of Rights.
Absolutely.
You have the right for these things. This country, there are certain inalienable rights.
And they weren't even going to sign the Constitution without that.
No, that was the bugaboo. They had written the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And I think there was 4 or 5 states that said, no, we're not signing this. There's no protection in here. What can you still do? Because this is what it was. There was absolute rule on the other side. And this is where divine right comes into it. This is where you go back to the divinity of emperors and all of these things that have come down. It's the same thing. We've taken Jehovah out of everything. This is why people say, oh, it's a Christian nation. Well, define Christianity, as we've said. Sure it is. Protestant, for the most part. Mm-hmm. But I don't believe in Protestantism. I don't believe in Catholicism. I don't believe in Orthodoxism. I don't believe in Pentecostalism. I believe that Jesus is the Son of God. And that He came into the world to give us and show us the way, the truth, and the life that comes from those things. This is what we're talking about here today. On the other side of that, what is keeping these people from taking this document out of the cultural context of a nation?
Absolutely.
See, and you just said it, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, here, think about this. We started off talking about your truth, my truth, their truth, everyone's truth, what is truth, the whole thing, I'll tell you what, if you think there are no absolutes, wherever you live, go to the tallest building you can find, or the tallest tree you can find, and climb it, get up on top of it, and jump off. Because your truth says that nothing will happen.
Yeah.
But there is a law called gravity. It is an absolute.
Yep.
If you jump off, you are going to go down to the earth, and depending on how high you are, it's either going to hurt you very badly or kill you dead. So don't tell me that I can have my own truth about that.
No.
You can say what you want to, but everything I've ever seen, everything I've ever watched or known, anybody that does that falls.
Yeah.
And unless there's something put down there that can break their fall effectively, like a big airbag or something like that stunt people use.
And then they have to fall correctly, or they break
exactly,
something.
Exactly. You have to know what you're doing, and just to have the nerve to do it. So these are laws. They are absolutes, and they work every time. Doesn't matter. And so in our society, you say, oh, well, that's different, though, Bob. That's different. I mean, after all, nobody'd have enough, nobody thinks that. What, really? Who knows what they'd think? And so, well, I never thought.
It might be a kind of a large, a broad example, but it still fit. Take that out.
Absolutely. There are people, I think, I don't know, but maybe there's been somebody down through time thought they could fly.
Well, they have. They've strapped pigeons to their arms and stuff. Yeah. To Dad's point, see, we're using an analogy. Think about 40 years ago. Any kind of situation we're seeing where you have men dressed up like women in thongs dancing in front of babies and children while parents sit and applaud and want their children to see this.
Mm-hmm.
This is the point. Who would have believed that could even be possible? Well, that's a true. This is what we're talking about. See, truth isn't just a matter of, well, what's true? I said something true. No, truth is a matter of existence. Mm-hmm. How we conduct our lives, what the world is, what it was created to be. So when you first take that narrative and you say, well, we weren't created. Now you've taken a whole structure and said, now where's the foundation for that? And this is what they've said. And now science has to prove that there is this alternate reality, this alternate truth that we can prove, that's provable, so we can tell everybody to shut up, you're wrong. And this is what's at play. Am I wrong?
Nope. And here's the inconsistency in this. Okay. They say, well, that's our truth. But if I disagree with them and say, well, it's not my truth, then I am persecuted, called a bigot. I'm told to shut up. Mm-hmm. Well, wait a minute. Am I not entitled to my truth?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That says, no, I don't agree with that.
Yeah. If we're dealing with this, why can't I say that?
Right. Exactly.
And this is what the war is over, because there's Glenn Beck loves to say this, because this is what was said. This was it Voltaire? I believe it was Voltaire, who, one of the original Enlightenment thinkers, learned at the feet of John Locke from Great Britain, because Voltaire was exiled by the French king for speaking out. Anyway, it was, I don't know if he said it this way, but this is the thought process. I may disagree with you and think you're wrong, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it. This is where we're at. Well, how much have we said to the detriment of truth, of reality, of creation and what Jehovah's put in place?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
No, I'm sorry. I don't believe that way. I know that's hard for people to hear. That we don't want that because you're just uncaring. That's bigoted. No, it isn't. It's just the reality. Because I don't want people coming to the place where they're going to jump off a building.
Exactly. Exactly.
Why do people jump off a building? It isn't right now because they don't believe that anything's real.
Right.
That's the problem.
Or worth anything. Nothing has any worth.
Pam wrote in here on, she said it was 3 delegates, which I thought that it was. It was 3 delegates. I think one was New York. New York, huh?
Yeah.
That's what you would call ironic. I can't help it. But I'm pretty sure one of them was New York. You can check that. Somebody out there on the old Google machine can check that. They have also rendered the Bible null and void. They have made it fluid, and if not effect of none effect, which I agree. You know, and then there's a reply from us here: fluid, so that anyone can validate their own truth. That's true. Everything is fluid out there. Mm-hmm. This is why they call it gender fluidity.
Yeah,
because you can validate your own self. That's a very real statement when we're talking about this thing.
Absolutely. I could go on and on over, on ridiculous examples of absolutes, Mm-hmm. and yet, no matter how you put it, people still are going to persist that there's no absolutes, and just do this and that. I'll tell you what, stop breathing. Just quit breathing. Hold your breath. You know what's going to happen? You're going to die. That's an absolute. You have to breathe. Your heart has to beat. Your blood has to flow. Those are all absolutes to life. You stop any of those and life stops as far as this physical life. So there are absolutes all over the place.
Yeah, well.
Everywhere you look, there are absolutes except in our society, except in the society of men.
And that shows you what their agenda is.
Yes, it does, because they don't care. And it doesn't matter how much it harms or how much bad it does. It doesn't matter.
They care. They care about what their agenda
Well,
is.
they care about their agenda.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they care. That's why they're doing it. They care about who they are. They care about those things that are anti-Jehovah. They're anti-Christ.
Yeah, they are. Very much so.
It isn't one person, folks.
No.
In that respect. There was a man of lawlessness, but Antichrist is not one person. It's a mindset.
Well, Paul said that.
Right?
It was already in the world.
Exactly. It's not, quit looking for an individual. How many individuals do we need that are anti to the mind of God?
Yep. It's not just one person.
No.
Paul said it's already in the world. There's already a bunch of antichrists around here. They want anything to do with Jesus. They're anti. Mm-hmm. They're against.
Dad and I were talking about this before we started, because the knowledge of good and evil. And what's amazing about this, when you look at it, how much rebellion and revolution there is in the world.
Yep.
It's just a constant state of rebellion, a agitated mind. Saw yesterday Antifa popped up again in Atlanta. They were constructing a police school, training center and whatnot, and they just went in and destroyed it, burning things down. I mean, I don't know, destruction of private property. I don't know. But yet we got this pastor in jail for praying and being thrown out of a public library physically, mm-hmm. and they arrested him.
In Canada. Yeah, but you can burn buildings down, kill people, blow up stuff, all that with impunity.
It's amazing. And we say, and here's the thing, and this is why I say, we want this, we believe we want this nation, we want these things. Don't want after the things of man, because that's what we've created. Don't want after them, because there is one absolute truth. I am the way, the truth, and the life. He didn't say truths.
No.
Truth. What makes Jesus true? What made his existence true? And this is the point of everything. How many people do we see in public view, and we say these are the standard by which all Americans are supposed to live? Mm-hmm. They're representative of who we are. That's what a representative form of government is. We're a Republican form of government, a democratic republic, a constitutional republic, represented by the people, for the people. When was the last time something happened within the halls of government that you actually agreed with? Well, President Trump, I didn't agree with President Trump. This is the man that brought the vaccine in. Warp speeded it. Didn't do any testing, allowed these people just to destroy life after life, shut down the country, shut down the economy. He was the president, and we want to blame everybody else. Mm-hmm. Why did he do that?
Well, I heard this, This was said on the news, and evidently it's factual. At least this one was factual. You know, you hear a lot on the news that isn't factual, but they said this, that, in fact, Trump said it himself. That's the thing. He said it himself. They asked him why he didn't fire Fauci. And he said, and I heard him say it, that it would have caused too much of a storm against him if he'd have done it from the other side. It was just, they would have just thrown a big fit.
So are we standing for what?
Yep.
This goes to what Dad's talking, what this is about, where's the absolute? Had nothing to do with that. Had nothing to do with truth in the sense of whatever that is to them. And this is what's wrong with man. I cannot change what Jehovah set in motion. I can't make it different. I can't put my own spin on it. I don't have the right to make it different or into what I believe the truth should be.
Right. You don't. You just don't. And they don't either.
No.
But they're going to do it. When you've got Davos and men like that standing up and, reading Klaus Schwab's book, The Great Reset. That's where that term comes from, his book.
Oh, yeah.
Called The Great Reset.
The Great Reset.
Well, okay, Mr. Schwab, what are you trying to reset?
They just war-gamed a banking shutdown, a financial shutdown because of hackers and this and that. They just war-gamed this. So I think we're 6 months away from this happening. You're a conspiracy theorist. No, that's what happened with COVID. They war-gamed it, and then it happened 6 months later. So I think we're about 6 months out from a banking crisis. It's just a fact. These aren't things that are, I'm not telling you something that didn't happen. They've been talking about these things for some time. You have hackers. I think I'm going to go backwards here a second. I think this is what's interesting to me. And let's put this in perspective. I'm going to go back in history. We talk about the Declaration of Independence, right? We find these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, with inalienable rights endowed by their Creator, right? Why didn't they abolish slavery?
Yeah.
Right then and there.
If all men are created equal.
I'm just saying. Why?
And have the right.
Now, people go, yeah, those terrible Americans. Why has there been slavery at all in the world? If all men are created equal, what's slavery been about and why? Why do we enslave people? See, this isn't just something that happened in the Americas and no other time in history. And in fact, if you look at it, in the world today, and this is statistic, I'm not going to say that yet. I'm going to go look. I'm going to look this up. And I'm going to make sure, I'll tell you what I'm going to look up, and I'll bring it tomorrow. Because I believe there's more slavery in the world today than there was back in during the big slave trade of Great Britain and the Americas and all that. Not to mention, the people that they were buying the slaves from were warring factions within Africa. Their own black people were selling them into slavery because they would go to war, capture slaves. This is always kind of what it's been about. I mean, we see it depicted in movies, and somehow that, that must be fictitious, but it isn't. That's what would happen. Most of the time, the country that won the war would enslave the other people. You either died or were enslaved.
And there were warring tribes that just went around and took peaceful villages.
Yes.
And put them into slavery.
That's true. For their
Sold
own
them
benefit,
for
too.
their money.
And they would enslave them to themselves and for sell.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why didn't we abolish that? Why didn't we stop buying slaves? Give people a job, pay them a wage. See, there's way too much stuff out there.
Way too much. Yeah. Yeah.
We opened that can of worms, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, you know.
And this isn't white guilt or all that nonsense. This is just facts. This is just what happened in history. I believe the rest of that is just incomprehensible to put people in that place. Should it have happened? No. But who's guilty? The people of the same color that sold them, or the people of different color that bought them? Or the people that enslaved their own people?
Yeah. Something to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a mess, Pop. Absolute.
Well, and we, there's a saying by a man, if we don't remember the past, then we're bound to repeat it, something like that. I think it's said a little bit different, but that's the meaning. Well, yeah, but we go back to the past all the time. We look at this, look at that. Was it better? Was it better? I heard a comedian say this one time. Don't let anybody tell you about the good old days. She said, what good old days? She was an older lady. She says, I was here. Where were they at? So, we're constantly trying to live out of our own reality. We either live in the past or we try to go into the future.
Yeah.
And we will not take care of today. And the day is all you have to take care of. And if we don't take care of the day, the past doesn't matter. It's done. You can't go back and change one thing. Not one thing. A day lived is forever gone. And you can't change it. And you can't actually make anything in the future. All you can do is live today. If we live today as we should, as we sit before the Lord as we should, then tomorrow will take care of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. So take no thought for the morrow or yesterday, Jesus said, for sufficient today. We need to straighten it up today. We need to get it fixed now. We need to deal with things that we're facing in the day, and we refuse to do it. We're going to look back. We're going to look forward. Oh, the future's going to be bright. The future's going to be this. How do you know? Because we're not taking care of anything today, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Not the things we should.
We're going to be back and continue this conversation.
Yep. Yeah, I want to bring up something tomorrow that I think is going to be maybe a little hard for some people to swallow, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Make sure you write that down.
Yeah, I will.
All right. And so bring your straw. We'll see if we can liquefy it. Hopefully it won't choke us.
Right.
We need a good diet. We do. We need the right diet.
Yep.
And we need to exercise these things in our lives so that our attitude of the attitude of our mind is correct, so that our conduct reflects the truth of Jehovah in the world. Amen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And these are things that Dad has taught as far as principles for some time. And the reality of it is really here. And if we hold to these things, these fundamental instructions about diet, exercise, and the right mental attitude, it will bring you into rest. It'll complete you and make you whole. And that's the point of this. And understanding the foundational principle of Jesus Christ. We love you. We care about your life, and we hope that this has helped you think. That's the point. We want you to think. Everybody have a great day in the Lord. Always remember to give love
and give life
and give Jesus.